Hello, everyone. This is Tammy Fisher within the Doll World, and I'm here today with my gorgeous co-host, Ms. Georgette Taylor.
Hey, everybody.
Hello, gorgeous. And today we're excited to introduce you to Sid Schoenfeld. She is a young person in the doll world who's doing just amazing things. I paused there because it's like she's doing so much, and I'll let her tell you more about what she's doing, but she's just fascinating. I ran across her on a Barbie collectors group and just fell in love with her art. So thank you, Sid, for joining us today.
Thank you.
Of course. Thank you so much, Tammy. I'm just so excited for this opportunity. Well, my name is Sid. My pronouns are she, her, hers. I'm a Pisces.
Me too. Yay.
Yes, emotional and artistic.
Yes, we
I
are.
love it. What about myself? I just identify as a maker. I make things. I'm never not in the middle of some project, and it's just the biggest thing to me. I was raised to always have the mentality of be less of a consumer and more of a producer, and okay. I carry that wholeheartedly with everything I do. So I try to produce when I can, because it's not only fulfilling for me, but fulfilling for others, which is really enjoyable.
All right, thank you. That's great. So when I first reached out to Sid, I didn't realize she was so young. So I had seen pictures and I just assumed she was a senior in college, but Sid is actually a senior in high school. So
yeah.
Her goals are to become a doll designer, and that's one of her goals. She's doing many beautiful things. So I'm going to start where we do, Sid, and that is with, please tell us your doll journey, where it began and how you ended up here with us. And with you,
all
where
right.
you're going.
So I grew up in a sort of country hamlet outside of Portland, Oregon. And growing up, I was pretty lonely. I was homeschooled for a long time, actually. I did like kindergarten and first grade, and my parents were like, nope, take it, no more. Eventually, I came back in middle school, but I grew up sort of during this golden age of doll media. The golden age of Barbie movies, for example. That was my generation, Princess and the Pauper, Fairytopia, Swan Lake, Magic of Pegasus, all of that. Like the William Lau, Walter P. stuff. I fell in love with it, and those were such comforts to me. And then there was also Garrett Sanders' Monster High series, not just the dolls, but the webisodes and all of that, the Bratz movies, Carter Bryant, just amazing things. And though I watched these growing up and my parents let me, I wasn't actually allowed to have pretty much any dolls. I only was allowed to have Disney princess dolls and then like these 2 Hannah Montana dolls when I was a kid. Which, looking back now, it's kind of confusing, but in that sort of generation, there was a huge like scare among parents that these dolls were setting really bad expectations on who you should be, where I choose to argue that, where I think dolls let you be anything and whoever you want to be. But my mom in general, she was like, oh, the Bratz dolls, they look too much like this and no, and yuck. And of course, Barbie was designed in more, I wouldn't say sultry, but different fashions that my mom didn't really like all that much. So I wasn't allowed really to have Barbies, but Disney princesses, that was fine. So that was all good. But what really connected with me growing up wasn't necessarily dolls, but Littlest Pet Shop. That was my big thing. Okay. They meant everything to me. They still mean everything to me. I own all the Littlest Pet Shops I had from childhood. During also this generation, it was the start of a lot of YouTube communities. For example, I really fell in love with Littlest Pet Shop when I found the YouTube community for it. So one of my first adventures into YouTube, I think I would look up Littlest Pet Shop, for example, and I found this huge world of creators that'd be making videos with their pets and they move around like that with their fingers. For example, the series LPS Popular is probably the most iconic one by Sophie Garrett. And it really inspired me to collect, but also create, because a lot of the things that would come out of that was you design sets and clothing for the pets and all sorts of stuff. And I just loved it so much. And that the designs that I really liked were from the re-release that was by Gail Middleton, I believe her name is. She designed these new types of characters, which that if I think of childhood toys, I think of Gail Middleton and everything she did, because oh my goodness, what a just amazing person. And so from there, I started making some videos on YouTube. I didn't really get very far. That sort of gave me some skills of social media a little bit. It was the first social media I had was YouTube. And I remember getting my first hate comment, and I was like, wait, what does that mean? Because it was a British person, and I didn't understand what the word rubbish meant. They're like, this is rubbish. No. And I was like, hey mom, what does rubbish mean? No, I didn't take any offense to it. I mean, I was filming on my little iPod Nano or whatever, with like copyrighted music in the back. No, please don't come after me, government. But from there, I then made an Instagram for my little pet shop photography, because that was another thing in the community. There's all sorts of things that creators in the LPS community do. For example, LPS customs. It's kind of like Barbie customs, for example, but they will paint these and give new designs to them. And it's such a tiny scale that it's so interesting to look at.
Yeah, I've seen some. They're very cool. Yeah. Some very talented artists are doing some of those customs.
Absolutely. So I made Instagram. I wasn't really big on there either. I didn't really care about numbers at that point, but I wanted to build more community, if anything, and really learn about how other people I looked up to did what they did, and how I can become like them and learn from them and all that. And then I started integrating some other types of toys into my account. Another YouTube community I loved as a kid was the American Girl doll community. So that was my first doll I think I ever had. I think maybe I had a My Twin doll, but American Girl was like the first time I really got into dolls specifically. So different channels like AG Smiles, AG Jitters, all sorts of creators really inspired me. And that community is also really cool with the way they customize things as well. One of my favorite creators, Once Upon American Girl, Des. She's just phenomenal. She sort of started the trend of starting to do more glamorous makeup on American Girl dolls, which I just think so clever. And I just love what she does. I now have quite a few American Girl dolls, but in that community, I sort of learned how to fix up dolls, which I really liked, and really got into the designing the clothes of them, because American Girl clothes, like the dolls, can be kind of expensive. So I would go to the craft store with my grandma, and I'd pick up little fat quarters and sew dresses for my dolls. And I really learned a lot from that. And for doll restoration, I would buy TLC dolls, very loved dolls, on eBay or Mercari, and I would clean them up with the magic eraser, tighten their limbs, take off the head, replace the stuffing, give them new wigs, and it was a really fun process.
How old were you then?
Yeah,
I was probably around, I started collecting American Girl at 10 or 11.
Wow.
Which is pretty late in the game, I would say. And I started customizing about 11 to 13 or 14.
That's young. That's great.
It's pretty young.
It's some good experience for you.
Yeah, it was really fun. And I remember going to the American Girl store for the first time. My first doll was like My American Girl, just like you. They changed the titles of these dolls every so often, every couple of years. But it was like number 61. I named her Fiona, and I was really sad at first because I had no idea how the Girl of the Year dolls work. Every year, American Girl would produce a doll that would be around for 1 year that people could get. And I wanted the doll that was Sage. But at that point, it was 2014, I think, maybe. And their new doll was Isabel, which I was sad about because I wanted Sage and they didn't have Sage the doll. So I got number 61 because she looked similar to the Sage doll. So yeah, American Girl was a kind of a turning point for me. And from there, I would say, I don't know what hit me to do this. And I started watching Barbie movies again, actually. And I got into the habit of watching them every time I felt really bad. I'd just watch a Barbie movie, put it on, start drawing or whatever. It would help me feel better. So eventually I was like, I watch all these Barbie movies. Why don't I have any of the dolls? So I started going on eBay and such. I had already been on eBay for Littlest Pet Shop and American Girl. And I bought my first Barbie, which was secondhand, and she was a Barbie Princess and the Pauper Annalise doll. And I got her a couple weeks before that Christmas, and I was so excited. She was like out of box and she was tattered, but I was so excited. It meant everything to me. And she still sang. She has a little button you can press on the back, and she sings her little song. And I just started collecting more and more. And now I have a butt ton of dolls. So many dolls are like over here. I'm looking at them. They're all looking at me like, hey, look at you go. You're on a podcast. But I just got totally obsessed with it. For the art side of all of this, though, because that's sort of where my point is now. And from there, I've started collecting Bratz dolls and Monster High and so on and so forth, just because the more I've been in the doll community, the more I fell in love with different brands and creators and all of that. And I just, I love everything about it. But for the art side of things, I have always been into art. Like I said earlier, I'm a maker. I just make things. I can't not make things. So ever since I can remember, I've always had a crayon in my hand scribbling something. That's where my Instagram handle comes from, Sid Scribs, because I've always been scribbling. And I grew up in a household that was very realistic. It was very pragmatic, and my parents would tell me art will probably not be a lucrative career, and that is probably not the best choice. And so I would try to go down different avenues, but I always came back to art. It's just something I've always been doing, and I can never not do. And I think why I like art so much is because in a world where so much is out of my control and so many things I see just make me feel terrible and such, art allows me to create a world that I want to be in, that I want to see, that I want to create and imagine and give to other people. And it has always been an avenue for that since a teeny tiny young age. And originally, when I started thinking of art as something I could do as a job, it was around the middle school time, and I had gotten into my head that the job of maybe being a children's book illustrator would connect to me, because I love kids. That's a big thing for me. I love kids so much. And I would create these little book concepts. I had one about a ballerina. It's called Shine, I think. And then I had this one concept about liking curly hair, because I have naturally curly hair. I grew up hating my hair so much. I would tell my mama, I was like, I want Hannah Montana hair. I want Hannah Montana hair. Hannah Montana had like straight blonde hair. So I wanted to make a book about kids learning to love their hair. It was called I Love My Locks, I think. But the more I got into my Instagram stuff, I was starting to draw more Barbie art, because I realized that was an avenue that wasn't really being taken up at the time, like Barbie movie art specifically. People draw Barbie art all the time, but movie art. And there started being more of a growing community around that, especially around my Instagram. And I started drawing more doll stuff. And then it came to my mind, wait, doll design, maybe that's something I can do. And then the wheels sort of started turning, and that's just the point where I am now, where I know that's what I'm meant to do. That everything that I love in life, what would give me ultimate happiness, what I think could give others from my power ultimate happiness, is making dolls. And I don't ever want to go back. I love everything. Another thing about the doll design thing specifically is I grew up a lot of times watching YouTube videos about Robert Best specifically. So they would have these little Barbie snippets about collectors and designers, and I would always watch the Silkstone videos and how he made the fashion model collection, and I was just enamored by it as a kid. I would watch the video over and over and over and over again, and I loved it. And I watched this one Bill Greening interview that I loved so much. Bill Greening's one of my biggest inspirations. If I could meet anybody, it would be Bill Greening. I freaking love him. So yeah, it just so many things in life, little whispers throughout your childhood, they sort of all build up to a thing where sometimes you just know what to do. And I'm so excited, and I feel so lucky to be able to know what I'm doing right now, because I know a lot of my peers, especially from the pandemic and stuff, that are now seniors, they haven't really decided what they want to do because life has been so messy lately. So I feel really happy to know what I want to do, where I want to go, and how I'm going to do it. I'm a very driven person, and I'm so hooked onto this, and I know it's meant for me, and I love it so much. Oh my gosh.
It's exciting. Thank you. That's a great story. Yeah. And so one of the things that I found fascinating, and probably part of why I thought you were older, is your cosplay. I know that you have a business where you dress up as different princesses, and do you want to tell us about how that works? And because you also, with that, I think there's some volunteer work where you visit children in hospitals.
I mainly have done Zoom on for hospitals. I haven't been able to visit lately, but I've always liked the idea of cosplay, and I didn't really get into it until a couple years ago, actually. And my first cosplay was of Erica from Barbie Princess and the Pauper, and I just sort of like fell in love with it. I loved the idea of being able to have all these Barbie dresses in my size that I could just wear around and like love. Which now Barbie is like one of the main things I cosplay. I have many Barbie movie cosplays that I've made that I'm super duper proud of. But when it comes to a point, because cosplay materials are very expensive, all of the fabric, the sequins, the scissors, the thread, the everything it gets very expensive. And so I saw other cosplayers start investing in the idea of doing princess parties. So I started looking into it. How much does an Elsa costume cost? What do I need? What can I do to it to make it look realistic? Ariel, Rapunzel, whatever. And what are prices that people charge for performing? And then I saw, oh wait, people make kind of a quick dollar off of this. And sometimes of course I don't charge for like hospital stuff because I'm not going to do that to kids like in that situation. But I started realizing, hey, this could make some money. I am a big choir kid. I love singing and performing. That's a big thing for me. So I knew that I could do the character part of it as well. So I started doing a couple parties here and there, and it makes some good money to start making more costumes and more projects and get supplies. I really like it, but I also love it for the kids. I love showing up to their house and they're like, oh my gosh, it's Elsa. Oh my gosh. It's really exciting, and seeing their faces, and I love playing with kids and really just making their day and stuff. It's really fun. And the more parties I do, the more funding I can get to make more costumes. So it's really nice.
That's great.
It helps to fund your business, it helps to fund your other desire
endeavors.
And so speaking of that, I know you were talking about how much you love dolls and how much you love creating dolls. Where are you going with that part of your life as far as creation of dolls and designing for dolls? Where's that leading?
So right now I'm in the process of applying to Otis College of Art and Design in Los Angeles. It's my dream school. It's one of the only schools kind of in the world that has a toy design degree. Because when I was researching for college, I didn't even know that toy design was a degree that people could do. I thought that just people picked that up from wherever, but no, there's a huge academic part to it. There's so many levels of play testing, learning how kids like play with stuff, sculpting, painting, concept art. There's so many levels to it, marketing. And those are all things that I really interest me other than the drawing stuff. I like the idea of making a profitable product that makes people happy and that works. I like it. So I'm applying to Otis. From there, Otis has different internship programs with Mattel in the summer, and students in the toy design program can work with Hot Wheels or Barbie or whatever license brand wants to reach out to Otis to work with them. And I'm really excited for that opportunity to come to me and to hopefully work with Mattel. I love Mattel so much. Oh my gosh, I'm geeking out over here. It just makes me so excited. I love thinking about my future. Sorry. I've seen these internships be really good opportunities for a lot of other doll creators. And Otis in general is a great school for people into dolls and any type of art. I really love the school in general, the campus, the student life, and where it can take you. I really like that. I believe that Carlisle went to Otis. Okay. And I a few months ago, I went to a Zoom thing that was about for Otis students and Otis soon-to-be students, and toy design and diversity. That was the big thing, was diversity. And I know that that's sort of your theme this year for your podcast. Yes. But Carlisle and Angel from the Barbie design team did sort of an interview thing, and they were talking about how they develop diversity and celebrate it within the Mattel brand, and how it is such an important factor to them. And one of the big notes that I took from Carlisle was toys represent the world around us, and Barbie specifically is one of those toys that have been around forever, 60 plus years. And she reflects a lot of human history, whether it's kids playing with it at the time, seeing what opportunities they have or what opportunities they can imagine, or looking back at the original 1959 Barbie and seeing how that sort of represented a culture. For example, I have a reproduction. I don't own the original, of course, but her eyes sort of stare off to the side, which was sort of, I wouldn't say, I think it's very pretty to me, but it's not as confident position as, for example, during the women's lib movement, and Barbie started facing forward with her superstar face and Malibu Barbie, that type of stuff. It really shows the development of how Ruth Handler thought girls could be, which I really like. And I love examining that and the trends and such. Like, Barbie went to the moon before Neil Armstrong, which is cool. And when it comes to diversity, like the first Black Barbie, there was like Christy and Nikki and all of that stuff. But the first Black Barbie was the first Barbie that was Black to have the Barbie name attached to it. She wasn't one of Barbie's friends. She wasn't somebody she hangs out with. She was Barbie. And I think that was very important to Black children of the time, to see that, knowing that, hey, because Barbie is the teenage fashion model. She is kind of the beauty standard of the time. And I would argue that she still kind of is. She is a model citizen. And for children of any race, any look, to see that, I can only imagine how that feels and how exciting that must be. But Barbie changes to the time, with the times, adapts, evolves, being the curvier Barbies and the taller and petite Barbies. But I know that you, Georgette, made a curvy a couple years ago, right?
Before you were born.
Or doll. Yeah.
A couple plus a couple.
Yeah, a couple of years. Big beautiful dolls. Yes, the plus size.
Yeah, she's a Barbie sizes and height.
Barbie size and height.
The 12-inch,
Yeah.
Which I think is great, because I think you kind of jump started that a little bit.
We did. People, thank you very much.
Well, it did. But people sort of started seeing that as a concept of different bodies and such. And now next year, I believe there's going to be the first transgender Barbie, which is exciting. Laverne Cox. There's going to be a Laverne Cox Barbie, which I think is really exciting. I have no idea what they're going to do with that, but I'm so excited to see that representation and what they're going to do with that. Because Mattel made Creatable World a couple, maybe last year, I don't know, which was sort of
COVID time is really different, isn't it? It wasn't
Yeah.
last year, but recently. Yeah.
it's hard to keep up. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Mattel made Creatable World, which allowed children and whoever was playing with it to really not think in gender binary, but sort of a broader spectrum, which is really cool. Jumping from that, the meeting with Carlisle and Angel and stuff, that really gave me some insight into how they see diversity as a company and how much they value it. They have like a whole team that like researches different cultures that they may not be well versed in as designers. And I think that's really honorable of them to make sure that they get it right the first time. And if they don't get it right the first time, sure that there might be some controversy, but they make sure to make up for it and to learn from it. Because not only like me, and there's only so much perspective that I can have as a white individual. I want to learn about others and how they see the world and their dreams and their aspirations and goals, not just as a generalized group, but as individuals. I love learning about that and being able to help contribute. I like that.
So if you were to become a Mattel employee and the Barbie side, what would your dream job be?
I don't know, man. I want to do everything. And another thing in that meeting that Carlisle and Angel were talking about is how everybody in the building there, they kind of are well versed in a little bit of everything. There's tons of people know how to face paint, and some people know how to do box design and so on and so forth. And people can just sort of like switch out a little bit, and it's like a little bit of tag team. So if somebody needs help on a project, somebody else can help with it. So I really want to know about everything I could do to help in the design process and eventually getting it to market. So I want to make toys for everybody, collectors, children, everybody in between. I want everybody to have a doll that they love. I want to be that person that makes that toy from your childhood that you look back and you realize how big of an impact that toy made, kind of like Gail Middleton did for me all those years ago. I want to be that person for somebody and inspire them to imagine a world where they're the most happy and they feel the most creative.
That's beautiful. So Garrett Sandler, the guy who created Monster High, I meant Sander, but Garrett started off as a package designer and then moved into doll design, and Monster High was created there at Mattel. So yeah, and I know that you were already doing package design. You spoke a little bit about that.
A little bit, yeah. For some of my portfolio projects for applying to art school, I wanted to design some actual physical dolls. So I've done a little bit of that. I have a Trixie Mattel doll, for example, I made. It's unlicensed, but I made a custom doll of her, including box art, which was really fun. And I really like how it all comes together. It looks like a nice product that you could put on the shelf. And I really enjoy that. All right, so here's my Trixie doll I made. It's kind of big, but it was really fun creating her. Like I said earlier, Trixie Mattel is just such a big inspiration to me. Drag in general is such an inspiration. I really love that community and all they do. I've drawn so many drag queens as commissions you wouldn't even believe, and every one of them I fall in love with the makeup they do, their sense of style and sort of their je ne sais quoi.
So you designed that box?
Yeah, I designed that box. And then I have this doll for a line of dolls that I made a concept of called the Jukebox Girls. And it would kind of be like a strawberry shortcake type thing, I think. I made this out of a strawberry shortcake base, for example. The other, the Trixie doll was a little surprise OMG body. And then I think Generation Girl Barbie head, I think, face mold. But for the Jukebox Girl line, if it were to be a real product, I'd want them to be scented and I want them to play music. You could press a button on the back and they'd have like a little 50s jingle jingle.
Cute. I like that.
Yeah, I think she's super cute. But that was one of my original concepts. I've had I have a little like notes tab in my phone of it'll come to my head like in class and be like, oh, that would be a really good concept for a toy, and I'll write it down and then I'll pull my iPad out and do a little sketch of it, and may go somewhere, may not, never know.
Never know. Never
Yeah.
know. That's why
Yeah.
you keep them. That's why you keep everything jotted down, because you just never know
Yeah.
what's gonna
Exactly.
come out. You know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
get that.
Yeah, that's great.
I'm going to tell you one thing about doing this. I'm really enjoying this because I get to see the pleasure and the passion that you have for creating dolls, and at such a young age, because a lot of the people that we speak to are much older.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
So get to see you with such a desire to create dolls and having an understanding of what goes into that, and being open to learning more about doing the process, and being so dedicated to knowing, the people that you admire, and the people that have, you know, been an
Paved the
inspiration
way.
to you.
Yeah.
Yes, it's been refreshing. I just want to say that it's just been really refreshing, and I do believe that you're going to do some amazing things out there in the doll world, and I can't wait to see what you bring to the table, and
Me
I can't
too.
wait to see, I really can't wait to see what you bring to the table, because you have such a great passion and desire to want to showcase diversity, want to be able to give people an opportunity to revel in play. And
Mm-hmm.
that's what I love.
It's such a joy.
I love hearing you talk about that.
I feel like the children's. Have you ever heard of the concept of flow, where it's you get into a project and it's like no time passes, but you look at the clock and it's like 5 hours have passed. You're like, oh my gosh. I feel like the
Mhm.
children's standard version of that is play,
Mm-hmm.
playing with toys.
Yeah.
Because they're in their own little world, and it can be anything they want to be, and there's so limitless opportunities. Whatever the kid wants. It's interesting to see how children play sometimes, because a lot of children, especially that have had traumatic experiences, they can play very differently from somebody who mainly has had a more I don't want to say normal. Nobody has a normal childhood, I think, but
Probably less
standard?
traumatic.
Less traumatic, yeah. And I want to bring comfort for whatever kid is playing with whatever I make.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, it's there's a whole line of therapy, that art
Yes.
therapy,
Mhm.
and there's a lot of doll play in that line of therapy. So
Yeah.
I think that dolls are important.
or Tammy and I were talking about how dolls can be used as sort of social experiments as well, with the Clark and Clark study.
Yeah, where they did that a black doll and a white doll that
Mhm.
were identical, and they asked the
Yeah.
children questions of, what's the
Mhm.
good doll, what's the bad doll. That yes,
Yeah.
at least that's the original one, was a
Mhm.
Clark and Clark.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's really interesting. As sad as it is, it still presents that the way we play, the way we see the world, they're very interlocked, and I think that's fascinating.
That's what started the fresh. Well, Dr. Lisa, I was going to say Fresh Squad,
Fresh
but
dolls.
she has more than just the fresh. She's
Mhm.
got the world of Epi. That
Mhm.
seeing a study like that, and a little girl referring to her skin as nasty, is what gave her the motivation, gave Dr. Lisa the motivation to start her doll lines, her doll company.
Yeah. I mean, on the diversity front, growing up in Oregon, it's had a very rocky past when it comes to how we have treated people of other races. For example, many of our towns that we still have here, though not titled anymore, they were sundown towns in the past, which meant that if you were Black and you were in this town, when the sun went down, pretty much white people can do anything they want to you, because you're invading territory when really you're not. You're just being a person. And because of that has sort of affected the sort of types of people that live here. For example, I didn't grow up with a very diverse community. And what I'm excited about, especially moving to Los Angeles, is learning about all these different types of people, because I through my work, I've been able to work with all sorts of different types of people, which is really fun to learn their stories. But seeing it, the real meal deal in real life, getting to know people, I really like learning how they live, because I think it's so special that we all get to be on this earth and have unique experiences, and how that, like, the more we interact with each other, the more unique experiences we get, and then it all disperses. And I really like that, and getting to be in a place where I get to learn more about that is really fun. Of course, now Oregon is better a little bit. We don't have any more sundown towns, but we were affected by it dramatically with how diverse our population is. Mainly Portland is the saturated area where people of all different types of ethnic backgrounds and races and genders and sexualities, that's where they all kind of congregate, because that's our most, I don't know, it's just one of the most populated parts, I'd say, and where art really blooms.
Yeah, I guess and I would think that when you find more, find a section of artists is where you're going to find a lot more diversity.
Yeah,
because they're just open to, creativity, no matter where it comes from.
absolutely.
So yes.
I feel like artists are some of the most open-minded people sometimes. Of course, there could be some that have sticks up their butts, but I feel like most artists are pretty open-minded when it comes to new ideas and getting to know people, which I really like. Everybody has a place in the art world, I think. Actually, I know. I don't have to think. I know.
I think that that's true too. Art draws a certain type of person. So both as the collectors and the people who are the professionals in that area.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that tend to be more, I mean, you have all kinds of people, but you tend to see more tolerance in art communities and art spaces. Yeah. So what we would like to do is we would like to continue to follow your journey and, come back periodically and let us know what you're doing and what you're learning. And
of course.
I'd
be honored.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool for our audience, because like Georgette said earlier, we see lots of seasoned designers and creators. And one of the things that I thought was really exciting about you was it was apparent that you were new. And like I said, I thought you were in university.
No.
About to step off. I didn't realize you were in high school. You were that new. But it's really cool to see your drive and what is motivating you, and it's just lovely to see.
The excitement to
Thank you.
To just be in that space, and
yes.
You got to make it exciting to keep it going, because the doll community is pretty niche. And one of the reasons I wanted to be on this podcast is because I haven't been able to find very many people in my position. I see these top designers, big dogs in the industry, and I look up to them so much, but it's hard to relate sometimes because they already are in their career. And it's hard to know how to get started into that. And I want to be able to maybe kind of be a source for some people that want to get into designing dolls, especially after high school, and career options for them. Because I have reached out to some designers. It's actually sometimes really hard to find toy designers online. I've noticed they have kind of a private life, which is interesting. It makes me sound like I'm totally crazy when I say this, like I'm just stalking them. But no, I have tried to reach out to Gail Middleton, but I haven't been able to find her.
We reach out. So within the doll world, we have this huge, the doll world. We talk to people all over the doll world. So we see the big names, the small names, the up and coming and history makers. And even for us, when this is part of the conversation we just had with Andrew Yang after his interview, we were talking about how difficult it can be to find someone who is well known, because they just have so many people. So usually to get into a big name, you have to know someone else who is their friend who can introduce you to
a friend of a friend of a friend.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So it is harder to get into them, even for us. I'm happy that you're here, because I think that people will see you and hopefully like you said, you'd like to meet Bill Greening. So hopefully Bill or someone from Mattel will see the show and say,
Hopefully, please, Bill, if you're
I,
out there, please. Like, I look at your art all the time, and I love your dolls so
I'm
much.
because I think that's important
Yes.
to have those
Little
role
people
models.
like me.
Excuse me.
Little people.
For all of us, you know, to
We
have
all-
to have role models. We're all
Yes.
excited about, you know, something. Georgette and I bounce around the idea of doing a doll, you know, her doing a doll again, and we still
And we have so
you
many
know,
people that we
that
tap
we
into. We don't know.
Yeah. So yeah, it's cool.
I was talking to Tammy about if I eventually do work at Mattel, how am I going to be in my little cubicle? And Robert Best comes around the corner and asks, "Hey, how's this project going?" "Oh my God, can I get your autograph?" "Oh my God." It's like people have like celebrities, like my partner really loves BTS, the K-pop group. Robert Best, Kim Clemone, Bill Greening, Carlisle. That's my BTS.
Exactly.
Those are the people that if I saw them, I would like.
That's how we feel. Trust me. Trust me.
I'd go crazy. Garrett Sander.
But I think you would definitely do that like the first 2-3 days because it'd be very sort of surreal to you.
Yeah.
But I think eventually, you know, you'll get to realize, wow, these are people, you know, they become like your peers and you know what I mean, in a way.
To work alongside them.
To work alongside them is just, you know, I mean, even Garrett said he still has people he, you know, goes gaga over. I mean, I think it's just a level of respect, you know, because of the people that you admire. So it's always going to be somebody, no matter what level you get to, there's always going to be somebody else that you fangirl over. So it's just, that's just the way it is.
It's always interesting when I do reach out. Like if I do, I drew one of Bill Greening's dolls, his Halloween Haunt Barbie for beginning of October. He had reposted it and I was like, "Oh my gosh, you're such an inspiration to me," in the DMs. And I've done this with a couple of other designers and different people I look up to. When you really talk to them, they're just people.
Yes, they are.
And sometimes they don't see what they're doing is as big of a deal as maybe what you're seeing. But it makes my heart so excited every time that happens.
And it should, you know, I think it should, because I think it keeps that you know, like you said, that little kid in you, you know, being excited and inspired and, you know, and aspirational. I mean, it's those things that drive you to want to do something. And so when you see people that you look up to, you know, and they talk to you, it's just like, oh my gosh, maybe
you
I'm
see
in the
me.
right place. You see me, you know, you're validating me, you know, and you see me for who I am as a creative person, and also you respect their work. You're respecting them at the same time, you know, and I'm sure they appreciate that. So yeah, I mean, kind of what Tammy said, I really would love to see your growth and what you're getting into and the people that you're connecting with and where you're going. I think that'd be a great thing to follow you and to showcase you, you know, on the journey, because like you said, it gives other young people an opportunity to have another young person to you become that green leaf, you know, to them, you know.
I couldn't imagine being that for somebody.
You will be, you know, if
I hope I am.
to do the things that you want to do and pursue them and be excited, always creating these things, you will be that person. There's no doubt about it.
There's so many people that I if I didn't have like a Bill Greening to look up to example, I don't know where I would be thinking of my future wise. There's so much I have to thank to these people, to people like you, people that are helping me on a path of success. And there's just so much I can say, that just my gratitude.
And we're honored to be part of that. Yes.
Very welcome.
That's one of the things that we aspire to do within in the doll world. We want to, for people who are thinking about, we're connecting, but people who are thinking about becoming professionals in this space, have them meet some of the people, hear their voices, hear their stories, get advice from them. That's a lot of what happens within the doll world, which we're there for the whole world, not just, like I said before, we don't interview just these people. We're here for the whole doll world. And we think it's important to inspire people and for the doll world to continue to flourish.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and it can only flourish. It can only flourish with people like you, who are excited
Mhm.
about continuing that process
I
of
just
creating dolls. So
I want to be a part of this legacy, uh,
nice.
especially the Barbie legacy. But even if I branch out and I do my own toy line,
Mhm.
I want to be a part of a legacy of inspiring children to take every opportunity they can, embrace every idea, imaginative idea, to make the world a better place. I want to be part of that inspiration because that was so important to me growing up. If I didn't have art as an outlet, if I didn't have toys as an outlet, I don't know who I would be now as a person. I think I'd be an entirely different person. It's just such a big impact that those things make.
Mhm. I agree.
Couldn't
I
have said
agree.
it better ourselves.
Thank you for sharing your doll journey with us.
Yes.
Of
We
course.
appreciate it. Yeah. And so we'd like to know where you'd like people to reach out to you.
Sure thing. My Instagram is at all lowercase, no spaces, no nothing. SYDSCRIBBS, I believe. Yeah.
Sid Scribs.
Sid Scribs. If you have any questions, you can reach out about commissions from there. I have my commission info on my Instagram. So if you are interested in that and you like my art, want to say just a little hello, I'm there.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you so
you
much
so
for
much.
joining us.
Yeah.
It's
Of
been a
course.
wonderful interview.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I hope I can chat with you ladies eventually again, further along in my doll journey, and that people are excited to hear from me. I hope I can make a difference. That's what I'm here for. And I'm just honored to be acknowledged and to meet you two beautiful people, beautiful humans.
Thank
I
you.
hope you have a wonderful, fantastic life and world and everything.
We hope the same for you,
Same for
sweetheart.
you. Yeah,
Thank
we
you so
really do.
much.
We really, truly do. And thank you so
Yeah.
much again, Sid, for being on In the Doll World with us. We
Of course.
really honored and really appreciate your time. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.